Previously on Battalion 13, the podcast. Darien's older brother Sean warned him of future renegade attacks on the Academy. Darien's immortality has been activated. Both the renegades and the Academy are gearing up for future attacks. Welcome to Battalion 13, the podcast, episode 10. The cool blanket of sleep, his mind wandered to a kind of childish fantasy. He was in a field, staring over the horizon, mesmerized by the sun and the way it grasped the edges of the clouds and turned them into silvery cotton balls with tufts of gold. The sky was a pretty blue, the most perfect shade of azure. The grass was the healthiest shade of green it had ever been, and it extended infinitely in all directions. He was most stunned by the way the light fell through the leaves of the tree overhead, and the way it turned green to gold. Seeing this made some part of him wish that he had the Midas touch, so he could turn it all to gold. Then he could admire its beauty, at any time, and become enraptured by its golden sheen. Every leaf danced a lovely waltz in the gentle breeze, as it blew in circles. The leaves turned and swayed over and over to some silent, synchronized 1-2-3 rhythm.
Emerson!
Someone called out to him, trying to capture his attention. A voice that grew louder and louder as it called out, seeming from the inside of his ear. It was hollow, mushy, and indistinct at first, but as it pervaded his thoughts, it became clearer and louder.
Emerson! Emerson! Emerson!
Emerson shook his head a bit and looked towards the voice. It was James, sunlight falling across his short midnight hair, dotting the inky blackness with hues like stars in the night sky.
Huh? What is this? James? What are you doing here?
James shouldn't have been there.
I was literally dragged here by you? You wanted to hang out? To get to know me more? Something like that? You said, either way, you got hypnotized by the landscape. Is it really that pretty?
To double-check, Emerson almost became mesmerized once more, looking back at the horizon.
You're doing it again. I would have thought you'd be hypnotized by me.
I am not. Why would I be hypnotized by you?
You usually are. You always think so highly of me, and are always watching me. Don't think I don't notice.
I do not know what you're talking about. That's ridiculous.
Emerson's face became slightly hot.
You do realize I'm not colorblind, right? I can see you blushing, even if it is faint.
Emerson now felt like a flaming tomato, face hot and red.
Now it's worse. Cute.
I'm not cute. Only girls get to call me that.
Fine, whatever. It's just adorable to see the big bad leader become embarrassed.
James smiled as if this was amusing. The scenery then changed in a whirl of gray mist. They were in a museum, white walls surrounding them, and color only coming from paintings and portraits lining each wall. Statues were in the empty corridors, illuminated by natural light cascading in from the ceiling.
Ribbon's quite the, dark artist. His work is giving me chills. It's well done, but wow.
James stood next to him. The piece they were looking at was an image of two women with cherubs at their feet, trying to stop a quintessential soldier striding off to war with an already bloodied sword, and trampling on a book, with horrified women and children and the corpses of men before him. The lighting in the portrait was dark, the only brightness being the pale, uncovered flesh of the women and the blood-red cloak of the soldier. The image itself felt tense. Emerson felt a bit entranced by the portrait, in a dark, twisted sense.
Consequences of War. How beautiful.
Isn't it called The Horrors of War?
It before my time, but yes, still true masterwork. Beautiful.
I think so too.
Emerson broke his trance and looked at James, smiling. However, James was looking directly at him.
Why do you insist on calling me beautiful? I am not.
Really? Then you're gorgeous.
I am not gorgeous, you are.
Emerson suddenly cut his speech short. He wanted to call him any kind of curse word under the sun, but he was torn between that and wanting to throw the word beautiful back at him. But he couldn't. He wasn't...
James, really. Stop this now. It's no funny.
I'm not meaning to be funny.
James' face was confused, but Emerson was even more perplexed. The scene changed again. This time Emerson was back in his home in Russia. His father's manor had a grand ballroom, chairs atop a balcony at the back, with the dance floor extending beyond to the large grand double doors at the entrance. Today it was full of people dancing around in pairs, servants gracefully avoiding them while carrying platters of greasy duck. Emerson sat in a small throne to the right of his father's chair, and his mother was supposed to sit to the left of his father. Tonight, though, their seats were empty, as they were probably off having fun somewhere else. Emerson wanted to go down and dance with a girl, but he didn't see a single one by themselves tonight. He felt slightly disappointed that he couldn't join the fray and have fun tonight, so he sat slightly mopey in his chair. Someone approached him from his right.
May I dance with you, Lady Emerson?
Emerson's face flattened with annoyance, as this invader continued to invade every aspect of his dream.
No, James. I am not a lady.
Then why are you wearing that?
This made Emerson curious. He looked down to find he was attired in a purple skirt and silk tunic, layered over each other, each garment patterned with silver. The sleeves were baggy and 10 times the size of his arm, which made him feel as if he were wearing kites on his arms and might take flight in a strong wind. Emerson put his head in his hands.
Why? Why are dreams like this?
I don't know, but it's rude to turn down a man. Come, let us cavort.
James grabbed one of Emerson's hands and pulled him onto his feet. He dragged him down the stairs to the dance floor. James was dressed in the clothes of Emerson's time, a long tunic laced with gold trim layering over a pair of white trousers neatly pressed into a pair of blue boots. His robe came around his arms like a jacket and fell to the floor, and was blue to match the boots. Emerson felt nostalgic seeing the clothes of his people, but felt rather uncomfortable having James appear in his dreams. They joined the crowd below, which felt oddly familiar to Emerson, like he knew James was plotting something perverse, like Emerson would. The energy of the room, however, caused him to forget it and try to enjoy himself. Emerson lost himself in the atmosphere and the pleasure it brought to him emotionally. He danced, and at some point he smiled and laughed with James, as if he were enjoying his company. He forgot himself and started having fun. Somehow the scene changed again without Emerson noticing. He suddenly recognized the room he was in. He knew it by heart. It was his old stomping ground, his bedroom. The room was lined with fabrics the color of red wine, deep velvety purples falling to the floor like it was being poured into a glass. Long regal azure and navy fabrics decorated his ceilings and the floor, while red crimsons and scarlets draped his bed and wove through the other fabrics. Any etchings from the ceiling and the fireplace and the bed, where not covered by cloth, were carved in silvers, golds, and ivories, and laced with precious gems of ruby and sapphire, dazzling in the firelight. He was sitting on his bed, and James entered the room as Emerson realized why he felt this was a familiar scene. This was how he treated his female toys when he was younger.
What the hell is this?
I asked you to come here, and you did? You're usually more perceptive than that, Emerson. I thought you would have understood why.
No. Is this my comeuppance? Haha, universe, you got me. Fooled old Emerson. Very funny. Now can I wake?
Emerson looked at the ceiling, hoping some higher power would save him now. Unfortunately, it didn't work.
What are you talking about?
James sat next to Emerson on the bed and wrapped his arm around him. Emerson looked at James. not understanding why this couldn't end sooner.
Nothing, wandering to self and feeling hateful.
Emerson looked down at his hands in his lap. James held him closer as if to comfort him.
It's okay.
No, he's not.
Emerson threw James off of him and stood in a huff.
This is dream. It's supposed to be filled with my fantasies, not a curse on past. How dare it be okay? I am not. It's not real. None is real.
Emerson lowered himself into a corner of the room. He didn't understand what was happening, but he wouldn't let it continue like this. Emerson was then pulled to his feet by James and held closely. Emerson, lost and confused, stood in his arms and shook fearfully. He was afraid. But of what? This nightmare? This James? The sparks he felt when James touched him? Perhaps even himself. James raised Emerson's face to his own with subtle movements of his hand. Soon they were kissing. For a moment, Emerson let himself enjoy the sensation, to just be in the moment with him. James seemed to put him at ease despite how anxious he'd been feeling. He remembered when James managed to beat him his first day joining the vampires. He felt surprised, astonished that someone so young could defeat someone as experienced as him. He was better than everyone in every way. He suspected that perhaps he began feeling something for James in that moment of defeat. However, he couldn't accept this as reality. He couldn't. Part of Emerson wanted this moment to last forever, but every other part of him screamed in defiance. Emerson shoved James away, and then the dream ended. Emerson's eyes shot open, and he sat up slowly.
Why? What was that? No. I am not. I just want beautiful women and drink. James, I not. I cannot be. I will never be. I am prince. I am leader. I have not sinned, and I am not homosexual. Holy Father above, please forgive me for my crimes.
Emerson tried to comfort himself. His last statement reminded him of the first day he was imprisoned by that king, and he felt even worse. And now, how could he face James in his confusion? He wasn't attracted to James at all, was he? Emerson didn't know anymore, but the dream was haunting him so much that he could not return to sleep.
Darien, come on. We're getting ready to go.
Almost ready.
He does know he can replicate whatever he wants at the academy.
You know, Darien, he doesn't pack light. It was nice to be home for a bit, but I miss Cynthia.
At least you have something to look forward to. I missed my chance.
The bags that Max held slipped through his fingers as he phased into invisibility.
Max, come back here. We have training to finish. We have responsibilities.
Max phased back into solidity. His face appeared more somber than ever. Sam entered the room in pajamas.
Sam, we're leaving in a few minutes. Aren't you going to get changed?
Mom, Dad, guys, I've made a hard decision. Matt isn't doing well, and as his older sister, I feel that I need to take some time off to help him with the loss of Maddie. With Darien and Sean at the academy, he'll only have Mom and Dad who'll be at work all day. He needs the extra help and counseling. I just can't do this to him. He could lose his mind even further. Dad still has stitches from Matt's claws extending into his leg at the funeral home.
I won't say that I'm not grateful for the help, but with the threat to the academy, won't they need you there?
Unfortunately for them, family comes first.
Eugene and Andrea embraced Sam, and the rest of the group followed. Sam, the military assignment is just a job. If you want Kristen and I to stay, we can.
No, I'll work with Matt for now. Go and help protect the universe. The UAD will need all of you, now more than ever. Hopefully, Jake got to the academy in time.
Emerson, since you're so confident about one of your soldiers,
Nightmare had gathered his top brass to discuss Step 1 in his plan to create a crushing offensive for the Renegades. Despite how Emerson talked up this particular vampire, Nightmare couldn't seem to recall his name.
James.
Emerson was disappointed that Nightmare had already seemed to forget his favorite subordinate's name, though just at the mention of him, his head felt a bit flustered.
Yes, James. How is he coming along now? Out of curiosity.
Well, he is doing exceptionally. He has great skills and talent.
Emerson decided to keep it brief, hoping to change the topic soon.
How would you feel about having him by your side as a higher-ranking vampire?
That is great. Apart from the fact he will be closer to me. I can't think with stupid dream in head.
I feel we've already renamed him at some point.
You did, Mordred.
Excuse me, where is this going? I don't see a point to this nonsense.
Since I seem to have forgotten, we should make it more memorable. How about a celebration? A ceremony? That way I don't forget again.
Party? Fuck yeah, I haven't been to one in so long.
Destroyer was enthused with the idea of relaxing and drinking.
James is worth this much. I think it'd be alright.
No, we shouldn't waste our time. Every second is precious. We are getting our shit together. Right now we need to focus on preparations, getting stronger so we can improve our thrall. We need those materials, not...
And who put you in charge? Dominator, this is important. This is like Red Beetle 1 gaining his rank, or any other leader for that matter. Just in a bigger way than before. It deserves to be recognized. He deserves to be recognized. He'll be like...
He's already one of us. What recognition does he need? He already seems to get a lot from him.
She pointed at Emerson.
Madam Dominator, I understand you're frustrated, but Nightmare does have a point. Every individual here is a member of our team and deserves to be treated special when they achieve something or accomplish something good.
Just relax, babe. I know it's not important for you, but it's nice to let loose every once in a while.
Fine, whatever. Let's just get this stupid bloodsucker ball over with then. God, I hate vampires. Getting special treatment, pampered. Just burn them all already.
What was that?
Nothing, Nightmare. Just muttering lovely things about your precious pets.
Nightmare reluctantly let it go, deciding he shouldn't start a fight now. He turned to Emerson.
Emerson, I need you to tell Mordred I have a special assignment for him. He'll rebirth a new edition for the vampires.
Really? Who?
A man named Jake Madison. He seems able-bodied, strong-willed. I think he'd make an excellent vampire. He'd also be great at teaching combat skills to our vampires. Or any renegade.
James does not know anyone at Academy. How will he know it him?
Long red hair. There's nothing else too distinguishable. However, if he makes any mistakes, that's more vampires for you.
Nightmare brought up an image of Jake in the seeing eye table in their war room. Emerson could see that his appearance would be easily recognizable.
We'll pass it on to him.
As everyone left the meeting, Emerson felt restless. He wanted to promote James. He wanted him to do well. James was his robust vampire soldier jewel. But he knew this would bring James even closer to him. And what if that Nightmare came back? He would have to tell James how he felt, if only to get it out of his system. Perhaps then, he would be able to think clearly again. Jake Madison and Jed Drake were preparing the cadets for their final 3 training assignments. The suns were shining down and the bugs were bouncing harmlessly off the shield. It was an unclouded, tranquil day, the perfect day for their training assignments.
Well, Jed, I think it's about time we told these cadets what they're in for.
I couldn't agree with you more. There will be 3 tests. Each will measure for the particular skills we're seeking. We've created teams based on your known skill sets. Jake?
The following people will be working under the leadership of Darien Kaine.
Darien was understandably surprised yet excited when he learned that he would get to lead a team.
Ethan Evans, Cynthia Trask, Jesse Barnes, Otta Jareth, and Pharos. The other team will be led by Max Knight. The following cadets will be under his command for this training mission.
Max was joyously stupefied that he was chosen as a leader. He was hesitant, but also enthusiastic.
Kristen Kaine, Chad Ender, Eric Swanson, Elizabeth Edwards, and John Matthews. You will all be blindfolded and taken to an island where the competition will be held. All other cadets will be watching this competition via satellite on the monitors here at the Akashic Academy.
The two teams came forward and were blindfolded and led to a shuttle that would take them to the island. What they didn't know was that they were not being taken to an actual island. They were being taken to a holographic texture-accurate chamber, where the competition would commence. This assured their safety, as nothing in the H-TAC was lethal. As soon as they were on board the shuttle, a harmless gas was released and they all lost consciousness. The teams were then brought to the H-TAC and placed on a holographic shuttle that emulated the experience of being taken to an island. Once on the holographic island, they were taken to a room that had 12 beds in which they were each placed. All the while, they were still unconscious. They were still at the Akashic Academy, but in a secret location that was buried underground. Jake went back to the shield control room to place some safeguards to prevent another renegade attack. The sun was high overhead when Maddie and Jake stepped out of the portal and into the shadows of a modest but well-kept house.
I did it! We're home! I'm home!
Maddie, wait!
Jake stopped her from rushing the door and nodded his head towards a group of children kicking a soccer ball. Maddie glanced at the kids and shrugged.
So what? It's my house. I'm allowed to go into my own house. Into my own room.
She closed her eyes and smiled.
Into my own shower.
Jake didn't argue. After so long on the run, she was more than a little ripe, and so was he. A shower sounded terrific. As they walked up the steps, Jake kept an eye on the kids, and so noticed when the smallest caught sight of them. Jake smiled and raised a hand in greeting, but the little boy just stared. The soccer ball rolled past his unmoving feet, and his friends complained, but the boy never took his eyes off of them. No, off of Maddie. Jake turned to say something, but his young friend was already opening the front door and pushing into the house.
How did you get in? Did you pick up some breaking and entering skills from that pet of yours?
Jake didn't know where Fafnir had gone, but he knew that he wouldn't be far from Maddie. She smirked as she kicked off her shoes by the front door.
Not at all. My family always keeps a spare key taped to the inside of the screen door. Flower pots, rugs, and fake rocks are the first places people tend to look for a hidden key, but no one ever thinks about the inside of the door they're holding open. My house, my shower. I'm going first. Why don't you see what's in the fridge?
Maddie headed up the stairs and Jake took off toward the kitchen. At the top of the stairs, Maddie stopped. A cold shiver ran across her back, and an uneasy feeling of loss and despair probed at her consciousness. She shook it off and walked to her room. In her closet were clothes that the old Maddie, pre-war Maddie, would have worn regularly. All blacks, grays, and dark blues. But there, shoved into the back of the closet, was a light green t-shirt with pastel butterflies on it. It was like it was hidden there. As though the owner was ashamed to have ever owned it, but wasn't quite ready to give it up. Maddie grabbed the shirt, a pair of jeans, and a well-worn flannel, then rifled through the dresser for the rest of what she needed. After the shower, she returned to her bedroom.
Don't worry, there's still plenty of hot water left.
Jake passed her in the hallway. Maddie stood in front of a vanity, its mirror covered in pictures of her friends, her family, of dancers and models. There were no pictures of herself. Her hand brushed a pile of magazines on the small table, and they slipped to the side, revealing a small book beneath them.
This isn't my room, is it?
Jake came up behind her.
It's not my room. This isn't my house. This isn't our dimension.
She looked at the mirror. Her eyes were the only thing she could see.
This isn't me.
She spotted a calendar on the wall by the door.
Can you tell what day it is? What the date is?
Jake looked at the calendar and shook his head.
This one's still set to October, and I know we're beyond that. If we go by the one I saw in the kitchen, though, it's November 19th. What's so funny?
Not funny, just whatever. It seems I missed my birthday by 2 days. I'm 17 now. Another step away from the fresh, naive Madelyn Kaine who cared about school and her friends and worried about what college she was going to get into and not about vampires and dead people and dragons, or if she was going to survive another day.
Jake squeezed her shoulder, but wasn't sure how to respond to her.
I went through another closet and snagged some jeans and a few shirts. There were a lot of black shirts in there.
Maddie smiled.
That will be Darien. I think he's allergic to colors. Or was allergic.
She wiped tears from her eyes.
Sorry, we shouldn't be here. This place isn't ours. It's another Maddie's, another Kaine family's, and I feel...
She shivered again and closed her eyes.
I feel unwanted here. Does that make sense to you?
I feel it. Maybe it's just like you said, this isn't our dimension, or maybe it's something else. Either way, I think it's time to get going.
He hugged her and pretended not to notice her tears. He stepped back, and they started down the stairs to leave the house.
Next stop, the Akashic Academy. Oh, hey, I found a duffel bag and stuffed it with a jar of peanut butter, a box of crackers, and a few bottles of water that were in the refrigerator. Oh, and a few cans of food.
Maddie looked at Jake and smiled.
Beans?
Beans.
Jake smiled back. Upstairs, a magazine shifted again, and Madelyn of Terra 1's diary lay uncovered, waiting to be found. While the cadets were asleep, the first test in the competition began within the dreamscape. Darien found himself in his boxers and a t-shirt, sitting in a classroom. He looked around and realized that he was back in high school. Wait a minute, this isn't right. I graduated. And why am I in my underwear? I must be dreaming. Suddenly, without warning, Darien was outside in the pouring rain. The wind was heavy and the clouds were dark. He looked at himself and found that he was wearing black jeans and a black mock turtleneck. He had boots on, but they weren't military issued. They were black Doc Martens, and they were a little tight. What is this? What the fuck is going on? He looked around, and in the distance, he saw Ada. He began to run toward him. Ada!
Darien, this is most troubling. I was just in my bedroom back home. Then I remembered that we were supposed to be on a training mission, and I found myself here. This cannot be real, unless we're being teleported to different places very quickly.
No, we're in the dreamscape. I just know it. But this is the first dream in a long time that I'm not watching some sort of horrific event unfold. I think this could be the first test.
Why would we be tested in a dream? It does not make sense.
You think that's bad? I just realized that without my translator chip, I shouldn't understand you.
Interesting indeed.
Ada looked at Darien and felt sorrowful. He remembered that Darien just suffered a huge loss.
While we were alone, I wanted to express my condolences about your sister. I too have a sister, and we are very close. I cannot imagine how my life would be without her.
Thanks, yeah, we were very close. She was one of my best friends besides being my sister. The rain subsided for a few moments, and then Sean was standing in front of them.
So, you figured it out, Darien. Good job. That's only the first part of this test. Not everyone has figured it out yet, but we don't have time to wait for them.
Suddenly, the other 10 cadets appeared. Half of them were utterly confused, but not Chad. Chad was wearing a military uniform and was carrying an M16. He had a sidearm on his right hip in a holster and clips for the M16 in a pouch on his left hip. He was fully armed and ready for whatever came his way.
For anyone that hasn't figured it out yet, you were all in the dreamscape. There are many dangers here, but nothing lethal. The renegades sometimes attack people in their dreams to gather intel. Today, we're going to test your dream conjuring skills and see if any of you can bring items out of the dreamscape and into reality.
Sean looked over at Chad.
Mr. Ender, I want you to teach everyone here how to conjure weapons. Darien, Ada, you two are first up since you figured out that it was a dream before anyone else. Other than Mr. Ender, of course.
Yeah, I knew immediately. That's why I armed myself right away. Darien, Ada, clear your minds.
Okay.
Yes.
Darien pushed all of the thoughts he was having down and did his best to clear his mind. Ada did the same. Once Chad was satisfied that they had successfully cleared their minds, he continued.
Okay. Now picture in your minds what weapons you want and will them into being.
Darien imagined a gleaming katana along with its sheath. As he did, the sword materialized, sheathed in his right hand. Cool! Ada imagined a pulse rifle from his home world. His world was further along technologically than Terra 1. The rifle began to materialize, but Ada lost focus, and the weapon vanished.
I seem to be having difficulty maintaining focus for this exercise. Perhaps someone else wants to give it a try.
I want to.
Eric concentrated, and very quickly, a P90 appeared in his hand.
Nice.
Hey, that's the exact starting weapon for the game Slighted on Game Station. You play?
Hell yeah. That's my favorite game.
Cool, mine too. I conjured the M16 from later in the game. You know, when you face the impossible beast?
Yeah, I noticed that. But the M16 is a lot more standard, so I didn't make the connection to the game. Yeah, I've always been a fan of first-person shooters like that.
Very good. Now for the rest of you. Conjure your favorite weapon. It can be something you handled in BASIC or from a video game. Like what Cadet Swanson there did.
I do not understand. Why are all of you able to conjure something here and I am not? As soon as I try, I am able to focus for a few seconds. But then my focus suddenly shifts and I have to abort before I conjure something horrific. I am sorry, guys. This just is not working for me.
This illustrates another point. Not everyone can conjure items in their dreams. Some don't have the focus, but that's nothing to be ashamed of. Well, Ada, I don't think this training assignment is going to work for you.
Ada vanished. Where'd he go?
He's in another dream, disconnected from this one. He will wake up as soon as we finish his training.
Everyone finished conjuring their weapons.
Now I want you to hold on tight to your new weapons and wake up!
Everyone woke up in the same room. They thought they were on a separate island. Darien looked around for Sean, but he wasn't there with them. He also noticed that several of his companions were now holding weapons that they had conjured in the dreamscape. Chad was dressed in what he was wearing before everything started, but he had his M16. He looked a little perturbed. Chad, what's wrong? Looks like you were able to bring your new weapon out of the dreamscape. I couldn't even do that.
I thought we were going to face something scary in the dreamscape, and I was all ready for it.
I guess that wasn't the point of the exercise. We were just tested to see if everyone could pull conjured items out of the dream. I conjured a sword, but you don't see it now. Guess dream conjuring isn't one of my abilities.
Then what's that?
What the fuck? I actually did it? Chad smiled and nodded. The others looked around and found their weapons. It looked like just about everyone had been able to conjure their weapons of choice and bring them out of their dreams. Only Elizabeth and Ada were unable to complete the exercise.
We have many crinonium blades that I have forged for you in this heap over here. As you can see, they are pearlescent in color. Once we enchant them to slay an immortal, they will change to an obsidian color with an iridescent sheen. During your week-long assignment with the renegades, your job as spellcasters will be to etch the following sigils into the blades. Once each blade is upgraded, Quickly pass over it with the lamb's wool cloth provided and place in the mahogany boxes for storage.
On a whiteboard behind Destroyer, 5 sigils were drawn neatly in black marker for the spellcasters to follow. The sigils represented the following: man, infinity, magic, death, and forever.
If you need any assistance whatsoever, just raise your hand and I can guide you through the sigil incantation at your station. Thank you once again for your assistance in our mission of freedom for all demon kind. Happy casting.
Once the cadets were fully awake, they were taken to another location on what they thought was an island. This location was a dark cave. In this cave awaited a very old vampire named London Hollows. He was an instructor at the Akashic Academy, who the cadets had yet to run into. He was dressed in black jeans and a black button-down shirt. His hair was as black as night, and his eyes were jade and piercing.
Hey up, cadets. I'm London Hollows, but my friends call me Dusk. I'm a vampire, but don't worry. I don't generally bite humans.
Yeah, Professor Maheg told us that there were good vampires.
Precisely. I've been a teacher at this academy for over 200 years. I even helped to design this training.
What are we doing in this dark cave?
So glad you asked. The purposes of this training is to see if you can resist vampire thrall. I will beat a vampire who attempts to put you under my thrall. But don't worry, I've never killed anyone under my thrall.
How do we resist vampire thrall? I've heard it's quite difficult.
That's what I intend to teach you. Everyone line up so we can get started.
The cadets lined up inside the large cave, awaiting the test. London stared at Darien.
You're the leader of your team. I want you to flip off your teammates and stick your tongue out at him.
Darien blinked and then proceeded to stick his middle finger up at his team, and then he stuck his tongue out at them.
You see, even your leader's susceptible to this type of manipulation. Darien, you can stop now. I'll release you from the thrall.
Darien blinked a few times and then stepped aside for the next person.
Kristen Kaine, wife of your fearless leader, step forward.
Kristen stepped forward and raised her shield in her mind. London stared deeply into her eyes.
Jump up and down for 5 seconds.
Nah, I don't feel like it.
Very interesting. You're unaffected by my thrall. Your shield abilities must give you immunity.
I raised my shield in my mind before I stepped up.
Yes, that would explain it. Moving on. Pharaohs, please step forward. Now you're a different type of being. I wonder if Mithril will work on you. Please resist it as much as you can.
Ferris stepped forward and bared his teeth. London looked deep into his eyes and began.
I'll make this simple. I want you to run out of this cave and wait on the beach for your team to relieve you.
Ferris ran out of the cave and found the nearest beach and just stood there, waiting for further instruction.
Interesting. I wasn't sure that would work on a Rakasha demon. Next person. Ethan, please step forward.
Ethan stepped forward.
Go. Join your friend on the beach.
I do what I want.
Another that's immune to vampire thrall. Excellent! You'll make a fine addition to battalions, my friend.
Ethan stepped back into the line and waited for the test to be over.
Max Knight, please step forward. Go. Join your buddy at the beach.
Max immediately walked out of the cave and down to the beach to join Ferris.
Interesting that the leaders of your teams are fully susceptible to mind control. Let's see who's next. How about you, Jesse Barnes? You have no powers. Let's see how you do.
Are you picking on me for my lack of abilities? Because I will have you know I am very intelligent, and this probably won't work.
Walk out of this cave and go join your friends at the beach.
No. I told you this would not work.
Very interesting. Your resistance is strong, but your intelligence has nothing to do with this. I sense you are already under the control of another. This is quite disturbing. Quite disturbing indeed. Jesse, please sit down. I want to try something.
Okay, but let's just be clear here. I'm choosing to do this.
Right, got it.
Jesse sat down on the ground and London sat beside him. He looked into Jesse's eyes and probed his mind telepathically. It took a few minutes, but he found what he was looking for.
Yes, you are under control of another. I can't quite determine whose, but whoever it is, they are not from this academy. I think it may be to reason that the shield failed and the attack occurred at the dance. Rest assured, it was not your fault. Someone's got you.
Impossible. I remember every day since I got here, and nobody is controlling me. I would remember that, wouldn't I?
That is not clear. But until this is undone, you are a danger to us all. I'm afraid that after these training exercises, you will need to be deprogrammed so you don't cause more problems for the rest of us here at the academy.
Is there a way to take care of this now? I don't want to be a problem.
I have techniques for deprogramming, but they take time, Jesse. But don't worry, as long as you are on this island, the controlling party cannot take control of you, not unless they are here with you. And as I said, I don't think it's someone from this academy.
I guess I'll just have to take your word for it.
Don't worry, we'll get this sorted out. Now, let's move on, shall we? Who's next?
Matt had just said goodnight to his parents and his sister Sam, but instead of going to sleep in his own room, he had decided to sleep in his late sister Maddie's bed. He felt so angry. The techniques that Sam shared with him to control his rage felt pointless. Tomorrow he had plans to meet up with Mr. Davidson for a movie at the Dollar Cinema down the road. They had all agreed that this outing might be good for him, especially since they had agreed on a comedy.
Show me your true self, Maddie.
Matt began opening Maddie's desk drawers and found pictures of her where she had scratched out the face. With a black marker, she had written derogatory terms on them. Fatty, pig, failure, and I'll never be thin enough. At this moment, Matt began looking more feverishly for anything he could find that Maddie had written.
Bingo.
A plain black spiral notebook containing the scrawlings of his sister's handwriting sat on her vanity next to a pile of magazines. Some of the entries appeared to be abstract poetry.
Why would she write a poem about eggs? Maybe she was really hungry.
As Matt read the entries, he discovered that the closer he got to the end, the more frantic her handwriting appeared. The entries on the day of her death appeared to be the most incongruent.
November 4th, 1995. Lately, I haven't been the person I was meant to be. I've betrayed you all. I'm just a shadow of a daughter. Nothing feels real anymore.
Is it possible that Maddie was going crazy because she was starving herself? What if Mr. Davidson is wrong and there wasn't anything attacking Maddie?
Matt spent the rest of the night searching Maddie's room for clues. Whatever happened to his twin, he was going to solve it. The Vampire Underground base had been cleared of its numerous tents to make room for the long tables and chairs. At a table in the front sat Nightmare, Red Beetle 1, and Emerson, followed by 3 empty seats around them. Destroyer was among the crowd, making merry with the soldiers and enjoying the atmosphere. Dominator was lurking in the shadows, trying not to be seen unless she absolutely could not avoid it. Along the other tables were a mix of marinated meats, roasted vegetables, and vampire sluts. Enough for every renegade in attendance on this occasion. James was supposed to be at the front table to begin the ceremony. However, he felt rather afraid. He hid somewhere away from the celebration, toward the back of the underground, behind the pile of tents, so he wasn't seen. He sat on the floor, deep in thought.
Why? I shouldn't do this. What if I hurt Darien, or Kristen, or Chet? Or anyone? I don't want to hurt anyone. Not like them. I'm not like them. I hate this. I hate myself. I don't want this newfound success. Or any success. I'll just hurt people. I'll hurt everyone. This disease, affliction, curse. Can't give it to others. Just can't.
He felt regret in every part of his being. He felt shame, remorse, but he mostly felt like a traitor to those he loved because he knew he would have to hurt them one day. It fed on his spirit like a parasite, leaving him enough vitality to live, but not enough to truly support him. Emerson noticed James was missing from the party, and concern grew in his chest. Where was he? This was all for him.
I go get James.
Emerson hoped someone around him would hear as he stood and left, since he didn't want Nightmare to think he was ditching the celebration. Despite the atmosphere, Emerson couldn't become engrossed in its jovial spirit, and despite how many beautiful women passed him by, none of them seemed to entice him. He needed to talk to James. He knew he'd have to talk about what had been stewing in his brain, in his heart, all day. Emerson continued to search until he found James behind the pile of broken-down tents, curled up on the floor in an anxious ball of nerves.
James!
James' head snapped up, startled from his thoughts.
Oh, it's time?
No, it's not quite. Just come to find you. You are okay?
Yeah, as fine as I can be.
Child.
Emerson sat beside him.
What, do crowds scare you?
No, usually I'm a party kind of dude, just not tonight.
If you are a party kind of dude, then go out into fray. Have good time. Enjoy self. Are you chicken?
I'm not chicken.
Then what cause you fear?
Just, you won't understand.
Effort can be made. Speak, or I drag you out myself.
Fine. I don't want the promotion. I don't want to have to hurt anyone. I still have people I care about out there. What if I hurt them?
You are right. I do not understand. Then again, it's hundreds of years since my friends were alive. My family long dead.
Then why bother listening to me? Just leave me alone.
Here is tip, James. People you love will die. It is fact of life. Whether you cause it or not, it will happen. Cannot be avoided.
I know that.
Even if you do not cause their death, someone else around here might. Thusly, they will die. Good news, everyone who dies in battle comes back here. It's part of the package. They die, fight ends, they come here to become one of us. You see again.
So, a zombie? My friends, my family, will all become mindless, empty zombies? I'm not sure how I feel about that. Was that supposed to make me feel better?
It attempt. Whether like it or not, you're one of us. You can spend eternity cursing existence, or get used to it. Eternity is a long time to hate self. Very long time.
Perhaps I should give it a chance.
You may make new friends among vampires. Then you have friend here and everything is good. No one have to die, you will be fine.
You're probably right.
Give shot, you never know.
Thanks for trying to give me a pep talk, Emerson.
James smiled a bit at him, staring at the floor. Emerson felt another stirring in his chest, like how he felt in the dream.
No problem, Saronic.
Emerson gave him a light jab in the shoulder. Even though he called him a friend, he knew he didn't actually feel that way, and he felt reminded of why he came here.
James, I actually come for a reason other than just finding you. So I have bizarre dream lately, and it is crazy, because I know self for a long time. Know who I am, have known always. Suddenly it changes.
People change all the time. It's totally normal.
It's not issue. I aware people change. It's just...
So here's where you two are lollygagging.
Dominator peered behind the tent pile at them, making Emerson jump.
You gonna come down from the ceiling, bloodsucker? Or just make this stupid event even longer? Nightmare wants to get this show on the road, and you're just holding it up.
Just a minute. Emerson, what were you saying?
Is nothing. We should go. Do not want to turn up late.
Emerson rose and ran off back toward the table and sat down in a fluster, nearly tripping over himself trying to sit in his seat.
I must compose self. No matter what, I cannot. I cannot love James. Maybe one day, but for now I cannot. We'll just inhibit him. Our kind is not yet free, but one day. I think I know mine so much. I think.
James and Dominator approached the table, and upon seeing James, Emerson stopped him in front of the table, allowing Dominator to seat herself. Nightmare quickly sized him up for a second, almost in disbelief that a scrawny little kid could be Emerson's strongest, and then called everyone to attention, turning to them to let his voice carry over them.
Everyone, today we honor the accomplishments of James. Emerson's strongest warrior shall become his right-hand man.
Nightmare turned to James, talking to him more personally. He placed his hand upon his shoulders, which made James a bit uncomfortable.
James, you are lucky, not only to be one of us, but to be part of a master race that even I am not a part of. Feel pride in your being, in yourself, and in your immortality as a vampire. You will live for eternity, which is why you need rights, why all demons need rights, and why our cause is so important. Humans like myself are far more inferior with our unlucky short lives. We don't need as much protection as yourself. For while we spawn more generations, many of us don't live long enough to see the day our rights are recognized among our own kind. But you, James, will live for centuries to see many changes among humanity. Why should humans with such short lives have such privilege? This is the cause, James, and why being one of us, you will help realize this goal. You will help demons gain their rights as the superior species. For you, for everyone down here, for every demon in existence, James, I promote you to the rank of commander under Emerson's orders.
Emerson called out from behind James.
I rename you Mordred, a name befitting my best soldier, my right hand, and one of the renegades. With this you are officially one of us.
Cheers echoed through the crowd. Yet despite all the positivity of the ceremony, James still felt some unease.
So being a renegade is just about freedom. Don't humans deserve rights too? They're not food, not livestock. They're people just like us. I guess they're right. Demons do need rights. And as one of them, I'll need them too. But even so, I don't want to be one of them. I didn't ask for this. Thanks a lot, Justin. It's probably his fault I'm like this. Sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to curse you too. But I never asked for this. And now, I guess I have no choice. I'll join them for now, but I wish I didn't have to. I don't like Nightmare, and Emerson is too ruthless as a leader. If this is the future, can I just wake up? Glad Justin was spared this fate. Darien, Chad, Kristen, always be my friends. You guys would accept me, right? You? I hope you would. I'd rather not hurt you guys. I hope it never comes to that. Forgive me.
Thank you for listening to episode 10 of Battalion 13, the podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Battalion 13HQ. Email us at b13@battalion13hq.com.